Imagine getting a second chance to go back to where your journey started, but this time as a proven champion. That is exactly what happened to Natasha Howard when she signed with the Indiana Fever for the 2025 WNBA season. At her introductory press conference, Howard could not hide her emotions. It had been a decade since she was first drafted by the Fever in 2014. Now she was returning as a three-time WNBA champion, a former Defensive Player of the Year, and a respected veteran. This time she had one goal: to help Indiana win. As Fever head coach Stephanie White spoke highly of her, Howard had a realization. This is where she belongs. This is where she needs to be. She has unfinished business in Indiana. But just months before this moment, many people believed that no star player would ever want to join the Indiana Fever. Instead of avoiding Indiana, Howard made the choice to sign with them. She had plenty of options, but she believed in the Fever's vision and wanted to be part of something special. And she was not the only one. Other big-name players soon followed. Suddenly, the idea that nobody wanted to play for the Fever started to fall apart. Howard was not just returning for nostalgia, she was returning to win. She made one thing clear: Indiana is not a team to avoid. It is a team to join. This was the moment that proved Sheryl Swoopes wrong. So why did a WNBA champion and veteran leader like Natasha Howard pick Indiana over other teams? Natasha Howard was not just another free agent. She is a three-time WNBA champion, a former Defensive Player of the Year, and one of the best all-around forwards in the league. She could have signed with any team, but she chose Indiana. At her press conference, Howard explained, "I just feel like I'm supposed to be here." Indiana's front office made her their #1 target. Head coach Stephanie White and general manager Kelly Krauskopf had two main goals: re-sign Kelsey Mitchell and bring back Natasha Howard. They did not just want her. They made it their mission to get her. Indiana's front office made a strong case for why Howard should return. They promised her a leadership role on a young and talented team. They gave her the opportunity to play alongside Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. Most importantly, they made her feel valued in a way that other teams had not. Howard immediately bought in. She was not just signing with a team, she was committing to a new era of Indiana Fever basketball. She stated, "I feel like a lot of teams didn't really appreciate me how they should, but Indiana, they did." To her, this was more than just basketball. It was about finding a home. Natasha Howard did not come to Indiana just to put up stats. She came to win championships. At her press conference, she sent a message to her new teammates. "We have to trust each other. If we do, we can go all the way." This was not just talk. Howard had already won 3 WNBA titles. She knew what it took to become a champion, and now she was bringing that mentality to Caitlin Clark and the young Fever squad. Indiana Fever's future looks bright. For years, Indiana was viewed as a struggling team with no real direction, but after this offseason, analysts were already ranking them as one of the top teams in the league. Some even predicted they could be a top 3 team this season. The old narrative was that nobody wanted to play for Indiana. The new reality is that the Fever are now one of the most exciting teams in the WNBA. Natasha Howard, Caitlin Clark, and their teammates are not just talking about improvement. They are expecting to win championships. The Fever are back, and the rest of the WNBA better be ready. Howard was not the only big signing for Indiana. The Fever completely upgraded their roster by adding several key players. They signed DeWanna Bonner, a proven WNBA champion and scoring threat. They added Sophie Cunningham, a tough and fearless shooter, and they brought in Sydney Colson, a 2-time champion and veteran leader. With these moves, Indiana went from a rebuilding team to a potential title contender. Suddenly, Sheryl Swoopes' comments seemed completely outdated. Instead of avoiding Indiana, top players were lining up to join the team. The Fever were no longer a struggling franchise. They were building a powerhouse. Now that Natasha Howard was officially a Fever player, one question remained. How would she fit with Caitlin Clark? Why they are a perfect match. Howard and Clark could form one of the most exciting duos in the WNBA. Howard is a transition scoring machine. Clark is one of the best passers in the game. Together, they could dominate fast breaks like no other pair in the league. Howard is known for her elite speed and finishing ability in transition. Meanwhile, Clark is famous for her incredible court vision and long-range passing. Howard could already see the potential. She said, "I can't wait to run the floor and catch those passes." This combination could be exactly what Indiana needs to take the next step toward championship contention. This video is not just about Natasha Howard signing with Indiana. It is about the transformation of the Indiana Fever. This move completely destroys the myth that nobody wants to play with Caitlin Clark. It proves that the Fever are now a destination for top players. It shows how Howard and Clark can become a game-changing duo. And most importantly, it signals that Indiana is no longer a rebuilding team. They are a contender. What do you think? Will Natasha Howard help the Fever make a deep playoff run? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more WNBA content.